Have you ever gotten ready to start working in the morning only to find yourself repeatedly distracted by emails, by social media, by text messages, by phone calls, by people stopping by, and suddenly it's noon and time for a lunch break, and some of your best and freshest hours of attention for the day have been spent, and you're already starting to feel a little fatigued? After lunch, the barrage of interruptions continues, and by mid-afternoon, you just can no longer muster the energy to focus on that one project, that one thing that you hoped to get done today. Can anyone relate to that scenario? All right, testify. All right, I definitely can on some days. Our struggle these days to focus is further complicated by smartphones, which give us access to the internet 24/7, 365. That means that a barrage of distractions can also find us around the clock, interrupting often not only work, but rest as well. So this morning, I want to invite us to explore some ways of potentially reclaiming our focus. It's inspired by a book published last year titled Attention Span, a groundbreaking way to restore balance, happiness, and productivity. It's fairly short and accessible. For my money, ironically, I think it could have been shorter. It could have been edited down a little bit more. Your mileage may vary. It's by Gloria Mark, a professor of informatics, which is the study of computational systems at the University of California, Irvine, and a visiting senior researcher at Microsoft. She's kind of a big deal. From studying thousands of hours of data, like really what workers really are doing every day, their daily work habits, people report they are overworked and they are exhausted because they have to deal with two things: too much information and too many messages. Again, anybody identify too much information, too many messages? In addition to all the other things you have to do, the prospect of ever getting to inbox zero can feel like as hard and futile a task as whose struggle? Sisyphus, right? Who was condemned by the gods to repeatedly roll that boulder up a hill only to have it roll back down again and have to do it all over again. As soon as we get our emails down to an even manageable amount, a new avalanche arrives. People also say it is just too hard to focus when they're on their computers and they're on their smartphones because there's all these other things you could be doing. Besides external distractions, people are almost equally as distracted by internal distractions: a thought, a memory, an urge to look something up, a desire to connect with others. And when you're immersed in the world's largest candy store, aka the internet, it's hard to resist sampling the wares. The struggle is real, people. The struggle is real. And social media companies in particular, they are using all the tools at their disposal, employing the best psychologists to tempt us to keep scrolling and just keep going further and further down those rabbit holes of distraction. So regarding that daily flood of emails that can sometimes come our way, I want to share with you one practice that has been transformative in my own life. For some of you, this one trick, this may be worth you showing up this morning. The choir is worth you showing up this morning. But this trick may also be worth it. Who has gotten to inbox zero in the last month? Okay, see, there's some hands. I have as well. I can testify this system works, although there are some weeks that I still get overwhelmed with everything coming at me and those emails pile up again. I still also regularly get to inbox zero. That doesn't mean I've addressed everything that needs to be done. It means I've gotten it out of my inbox, because an inbox is a terrible, cluttered, disorganized place for your to-do list to be. This is the random order that it comes into your inbox. This system has saved me from the huge waste of time. Have you ever found every time you go to your inbox, you're rereading the same emails over and over and over again? Like it's a huge, huge waste of time. There are two simple practices for reaching inbox zero. These have been around a long time, but they aren't as well known as they should be. Tip number one, only read emails once. Tip number two, respond immediately, or take the information in that email and put it in a Google Doc, or literally like put it on your calendar, respond to X person, and then you'll kind of see in your calendar, and then that also can let you know that your calendar's too full to take on additional things from other people. So you can just start to see it, and it organizes it in a way that you can respond in a much better fashion. I'll put a link in the sermon archive, or if you're just like, I need this information right now, there's a short article that tells you more of how to do this. So you can take a photo of this if you want and Google it later. 3 simple steps to get your inbox to 0 today and why it will bring you more peace than you think. If you're one of those people who have hundreds or thousands, or anybody want to confess to having over 10,000 emails in there? Okay, yes. All right, in their inbox. To experiment with this system, you need to admit you have a problem. The first step is admitting you have a problem. At that point, you need to declare email bankruptcy. You need to archive your entire inbox, and you need to just start over. And people will just get back to you if it's important. And then you can start inbox 0, because otherwise you're never going to get through all of that. The next, I want to share with you about the single most helpful practice I've found in general for reclaiming focus in my own life, and that is concentration meditation. 2 years ago, I preached a sermon called Contemplative Cross-Training, 6 Ways to Meditate, or How Do You Know If You're Making Progress in Meditation. That was an hour-long presentation. I cannot do that again right now, but I want to tell you just about concentration, which is that single dot in the upper left-hand corner. The way you know you are making progress in concentration meditation is you will find yourself increasingly indistractable. Various thoughts and sensations and emotions may still arise on the periphery of your consciousness and your awareness, but you'll find you can actually maintain focus on that one concentration object, whether it's your breath or whether it's a statue or a bowl of water or a candle or whatever you've chosen. And you'll find you truly can do this for like 45 minutes, for an hour or longer. Like it's really possible. If we had more time, I'd love to share more. I'm going to hopefully have time. My son is almost a year, so hopefully I'm going to start to have more bandwidth to lead some of those 3-hour yoga meditation mini retreats. But for now, I'll limit myself to offering you 3 options to choose your own adventure if you want to explore a concentration meditation for yourself. Behind door number 1, if you want an easy, accessible, beginner's level way of practicing concentration, I like this book. It's titled Peak Mind, Find Your Focus, Own Your Attention in just 12 minutes a day. She literally did the study. What's the least amount of meditation you can do? And it's 12 minutes a day. So this is a really good book if you just want to get started and feel like you can't take on 45 minutes or an hour. If behind door number 2, if you want an intermediate level guide, I really like the early chapters of this book, The Mind Illuminated by Chuladasa, and that'll actually take you, it'll take you all the way, but those early chapters are a good start. And behind door number 3, I often like to say, there's some really cool things that can happen, some pretty trippy things as you get further into meditation. So if you're curious about the profoundly pleasurable states of concentrated absorption that are called the jhanas, Jhana, that are possible to experience if you deeply go into concentration, especially on a retreat, I recommend this book, Right Concentration, A Practical Guide to the Jhanas by Lee Brasington. Now, I bring all this up because I want to invite you to experiment with a form of concentration practice right here in the rest of this Sunday service. Just like going to the gym, the more you practice concentration or the more you practice these other things, it's like doing reps at the gym. You get stronger the more you do it. You can build that concentration muscle, so to speak. So what I want to invite you to do is that we have 6 more incredible songs from our choir, and I want to invite you to experiment with really being here now, fully present with your whole heart, your whole mind, your whole spirit, your whole body to the beauty of this music. If Thich Nhat Hanh were here, he might invite us to experiment with being a businessless person. So, a businessless person is someone with no business to attend to other than just sitting, just listening. Here's the thing. You're here. You already showed up. You got here. Whatever happened before you got here, whatever is happening, ahead of you the rest of this day and into the week, You can't really do anything about that until after this Sunday service is over. So just for the next 6 songs, I invite you to experiment with what would it feel like to imagine you are a businessless person. Nothing to do, nowhere to go, just here in the arising and passing away of each present moment. If you get distracted, that's okay. Here's the thing. People often beat themselves up for getting distracted. If you notice you've gotten distracted, I invite you to reframe that as something to celebrate. If you notice you've gotten distracted, that noticing is a moment of mindfulness, and you've actually just done a mindfulness rep right there. So just gently and compassionately redirect your attention back to the beauty of the music. Let's try it now as we hear the choir sing, "There's a river flowing in my soul." That was great. Thank you, choir. Let's do a focus check-in. Good focus, medium focus. How was your focus? That song. Okay, pretty good. All right, but here's the thing. For better or worse, life often asks more from us than just being fully present to beautiful choral music for an hour. When I think about all the competing demands on our attention, I'm sometimes reminded of, anybody ever done a greased watermelon contest? All right, we used to do these you take a watermelon and you cover it in Vaseline and you throw it into the middle of a swimming area, and the contest is everyone's trying to grab it and get it to a predetermined point, but it's the harder you grab it, it just, slips out. It's quite the challenge. So our attention can sometimes be like that. In the midst of all the crashing waves of distraction, it's holding onto our attention, our focus can be like trying to hold on to that greased watermelon. And here's a really important part. Every single time we switch our attention from the project or whatever it is we're supposed to be focused on to an email, to a text message, to a phone call, to someone stopping by, our brain is forced to switch to a new mental schema to deal with whatever the new situation is. So think of it like an internal mental whiteboard. Every time you switch tasks, your brain has to wipe the schema related to what you were dealing with and pull up the new schema related to checking emails and all the things associated with that email or who this person is. So it has to erase and then bring up all the new associations and frameworks. And so when you're interrupted a lot, changing tasks a lot, trying to multitask, and you can't actually multitask. You can only rapidly flip back and forth between tasks. Your brain is forced to keep erasing that whiteboard, rewriting, erasing, rewriting, and so on. As a result, our cognitive resources begin to drain. Constant multitasking interruptions cause stress, fatigue, poor performance, and can even cause burnout. Studies have shown that for workers, the average duration of attention on a screen before switching to another screen has been declining over time. So on the left, we have 2004 and then down to 2022 on the right. On the left-hand side of the chart, you'll see that in 2004, 20 years ago, workers, before switching their screen to another screen, they averaged about 2.5 minutes on a screen. In 2012, 12 years ago, the average went down to 75 seconds before switching to another screen. In recent years, the average amount of time on any screen before switching was between 45 and 50 seconds. These switches are making our brain too tired to focus. Now, you may well be more focused than the average bear, but what this chart is that for the average worker, when they get distracted by an email, a text message, a phone call, an in-person interruption, it takes an average of 25 minutes to finally get back to the original task. So it's you're working on something, and then it takes 25 minutes to get back to the original one. So starting on the left-hand side, people tend to work on the main project they're supposed to be focusing on. They make it about 10 minutes. Then they check email for about 10 minutes. That's working sphere B. And then they check social media for about 10 minutes. So that's working sphere C. And then they check email again for 5 minutes, which is that return to B. And then they finally get back to the main project 25 minutes later. They work on that for 10 minutes, and then they check email for 10 minutes. And then you see how this is going. And evidence has long shown that productivity suffers when people multitask. The higher the frequency of switching, the worse the performance on the main task. So when you're multitasking, it takes longer to complete tasks, people make more errors, and it's also associated with higher stress. Outside of work, there's also this increasing freneticism in our free time. In 1950, which is about the middle, is a few over, it starts in 1920. In 1950, television and film shots averaged around 12 to 13 seconds. In 2010, the average declined to less than 4 seconds. It's just flipping all the time. There's a related trend of, ever heard of second screening? That's when you're doing homework, allegedly, but then also scrolling on social media on your phone, or like on your phone and like halfway watching a TV show, like these people are doing. Anybody ever done this? Yeah. One cure for this habit, in my opinion, is watching better TV. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, sometimes I need to watch something mindless that I don't actually have to pay that much attention to, something formulaic after a long day. But let me give you 2 examples that you can experiment with, if you'd like to, of recent TV shows that you will miss out completely if you try to second screen them and be on social media while trying to watch them. How many of you have seen Shogun? Streaming on Hulu. I defy you to follow what's going on that show if you are not hyper-focused on it the entire time. It's really great, it's beautifully shot, beautifully acted. You cannot track. You'll be lost immediately if you second screen this show. Or how about Ripley? Anybody watch Ripley on Netflix? I promise you, you could pause this show at almost any point in the 8+ hours and print your screen and frame it as art. To quote one of my friends who's in the film industry, it is the most beautifully shot TV series of all time by some margin. As you've experimented with today of trying to be fully present to this music, and will continue to do so, you could experiment with being fully present to Ripley. I mean, it is truly like watching an 8-hour photography exhibit, and it's shot in Italy. It's gorgeous. For now, you'll have another opportunity in this present moment to be here now as the choir sings, "Let the River Run." So here's the thing. The internet is amazing in many ways, but the structure of the internet also parallels some of the ways that our brains seem to be constructed, the way the knowledge in our brain is organized, and it mirrors how we flexibly associate things in life. Like the way we associate things mirrors the kind of hyperlinks on the internet. And the design of the internet tends to kind of unleash the floodgates of distraction. Ideas of the internet are as tempting to pursue as your own thoughts. Now, one option is to opt out. I find for myself at the age of 46, I have no problem saying, "Get off my lawn, TikTok." That being said, I know many people my age and older who love TikTok and get a lot of joy and a lot of benefit from it. So, your mileage may vary, and I still check Facebook and Instagram and Twitter quite a few times each day. So whatever your social media of choice, it's just important to be honest that these are being run by very increasingly sophisticated algorithms that are designed to keep us hooked as long as possible. And it's only going to get more tempting as virtual reality becomes more sophisticated. Has anybody seen Ready Player One, film from a few years ago? I think this film is really prescient in a lot of ways. Explores some of the forthcoming struggles with technology that we're gonna face. But again, that's in the future. And for now, you have another chance to be here now, to be a businessless person with nothing to do and nowhere to go, just sitting, just listening as the choir sings, "I Believe." There's so much more to say about the struggle to focus in our fractured attention economy. But as I near my conclusion, I'll have to limit myself to 3 final insights. First, there are so many time management strategies. If we had time, we could review all 15 of these most popular methods to master your time. And it would be interesting to do a quick summary of them. But the truth is, they really all boil down to one thing, and that is use your first and best energy to check email. No, don't do that. Like, literally, don't open your inbox. Do not open social media. Just start by focusing for 1 or 2 or 3 hours on the most important big thing you want to get done, and then use when you start to get a little tired, that's when you do email. Essentially, that's what all 15 of these things say. Do the most important task before you do anything else. And then you can just kind of check that off your to-do list. And when you end your day, you'll be like, all right, I still got distracted a lot in the afternoon, but I made solid progress for 1 or 2 or 3 hours before that. That single practice of prioritization can make a huge difference. And one of the ways to do it is things like, put that focus function on your iPhone so things can't, turn off notifications on your social media. When distractions do arise, it can also help to keep in mind that advice from anthropologist Robin Dunbar that we humans have evolved to be able to handle no more than approximately 150 personal relationships. In Dunbar's nomenclature, that's your tribe. In contrast, Facebook tells you have thousands of friends, but it is not so in any meaningful sense. The next inner circle is the 12 to 15 people that Dunbar calls your sympathy group, friends you connect with at least once a month on a really deep level that really share your values and interests and perspectives on life. It's really worth considering, how many people do you really have that kind of deep relationship that you spend a few hours with every month? Moving in another ring, your innermost circle is just the 3 to 5 people that you typically connect to about once a week, and you only need one hand to count the number of truly intimate friendships that most humans can sustain long term. And you notice it kind of just keeps moving the decimal point. We start out with around 150, and then we move into 15, and then we move into like 3 to 5. For more details, I recommend Carey Newell's really excellent book, At Your Best, how to get time, energy, and priorities working in your favor if you want to go deeper. For now, as we prepare to hear another beautiful choir anthem, this next song will be our offering. So if you appreciate the work of this congregation that makes experiences like this Sunday service possible, we invite you to give generously as you are able, either in the offering plate here in the sanctuary or through a one-time or recurring donation through the give link on our website, frederickuu.org.